afternoon, sir.
You are Shreya Tyagi.
Yes, sir.
Please say something about yourself.
So my name is Shreya Tyagi. I come from Delhi. I've grown up in a few different places. My graduation, my 10th and 12th was from the Kingdom of Bahrain in the Middle East. My father was posted there. And then I did my graduation and post-graduation in Political Science and International Relations from Delhi University. Right now, I'm undergoing training in the Indian Defence Account Service.
Why do you want to change?
Sir, I wrote the exam for the Indian Foreign Service because I had an inclination towards the international relations and the job profile of Foreign Service. That's why I want to change this.
What's your father doing?
So he's in State Bank of India, and he's right now in Mumbai. He's posted in Mumbai. That time he was on a foreign posting to Bahrain. Sir.
So you have been a student of political science and international relations. What are the electoral reforms which you will suggest in India which should take place to make elections more fair?
So one of the biggest reforms that I can think of that should come in terms of politics in India is the disclosure of, is the routing of political parties under the Right to Information Act, so that citizens can encourage information out of political parties. That will make it more transparent. Plus, there will be information about where the fundings are coming from, how much crony capitalism exists in the country or not. Second, sir, there are suggestions towards moves such as a single election for the whole country at the similar time. That could possibly help kill the election, the all year round election motive that exists around the country. So that could be one of the steps that I would suggest.
So RTI for the political parties and simultaneous election. What is the biggest bane of the elections nowadays which really works in favor of one party or one candidate based on certain things? Do you think money plays any role?
Yes, sir. I think money and muscle power plays a huge role in Indian politics.
So you will not suggest anything to control the money, usage of money in the election? What is your take on RVM?
Sir, remote voting mechanism for voting, if I can clarify. Sir, I think it is a welcome move, especially because there's a large part of the country that is on constant migration. And so it is a welcome move, sir. It will make them more active participants in the democracy.
Why there has been opposition from some of the opposition party?
So from what I know, I think the opposition is rooted in the procedural aspects of how the RVM will operate. And also the fact that there is, up to now, I think political parties are unable to grasp as to how it would affect the voting structure and current vote bank that operates in the country.
Do you think something should be done for the non-resident Indians also?
So I do think that something should be done for the non-resident Indians, especially since a globalized world now today exists. So many Indians are working outside but have a key interest in the way that the country is governed. So I would think that in some aspect, if they can be integrated into the democratic system, that would be welcome.
What's your take on disinvestment which government is undertaking as on date?
So I think from a large part of the economy, disinvestment is welcome from the government, because I think the market should be operating on its own merits and its own procedures. The government, I guess, no longer has a business being in business. So except a few strategic sectors, I think disinvestment is welcome, sir.
Again, there is a fear that if you allow the private sector monopoly, which can be more dangerous for the people of India.
Yes, sir, that is right. A monopolization of any market is something that should be avoided at all costs. But I think procedures are in place, such as the Competition Commission of India and other competition company laws, etc., that can prevent such a mechanism from such an event from us.
If you have heard, the moment Adani has taken over the Mumbai electricity supply, the bills of the consumers have gone up by 10 to 15%. And in a distribution company, it's a total monopoly of that company in that area?
So I don't know about this
You
move,
don't
so I'll
know.
have to read up on it.
Okay. Which are the areas which you will suggest for this investment further?
So I think a few areas that I can think of are things like, say, textile.
Which one?
Textiles, small ration shops, etc. Khadi Vikas, etc. that I can think of on the top.
Do you think that private people will be interested in promoting khadi?
I hope that the tastes are changing.
You are a very optimistic person. And
I might have to read up on that, sir, more on that, sir.
And what is your take on merger of the bank, which has taken place in the last few years?
So from what I know, merger of banks is a welcome step in terms of creating a larger bank structure. It also helps in avoiding duplication of efforts across banks, helps in rationalizing the number of people, staffers, etc. So I think there are certain benefits to the creation of a large bank.
Bank opening is totally governed by the RBI regulation, and RBI do determine whether the bank should be opened. They can always specify the guidelines. If you have already a bank of other branch, you should not be allowed to open. That branch cannot open indiscriminately. Okay.
Yeah, Shreya, you are from Delhi. Tell us the 5 reasons for which we can say that Delhi Dilwalon ki.
So, some of the reasons that I can think of, the primary thing that comes to my mind, the first of which is food in Delhi. The food in Delhi is something that it creates a culture around itself, and also is a very welcoming factor in terms of who comes, what they eat. It has a lot of different tastes that has been accommodated. So I feel like one factor is food. Second is the tourism and history around Delhi. I feel like it brings us a lot of exposure, makes us more tolerant as people. Third, I think, is the evolving music tastes in terms of influence of the areas in and around Delhi. I think that also has a big influence in terms of the culture of the city. Lastly, so I think universities is one thing that has a big influence in drawing people to Delhi, also expanding the way that Delhi Beats is the capital of the country. Finally, sir, if I had to say something, it is the center of politics in India. So, of course, it is the true heart of the country.
Okay, fine. How agriculture affects the politics of the country?
So, considering that almost half of our population is involved in agriculture, directly and indirectly, as well as it's the largest labor employer in the country, I think there's a significant influence of agriculture as a vote bank, as well as an influence in terms of the issues that play out in politics.
What is your take on the recent farmers' bill, which is rolled out?
So I think that the recent farm bills, they were revoked by the government as of last year because of visible opposition by the large farmers of certain states. I think considering the time being, there should be broader consultation, and then maybe a revised farm bills can come back into the country and change the way that farming is done in the country. So.
What are the losses or benefits we are having with our relationship with China?
So with China, we are seeing losses in a few key respects. One of them is, the first one would be the territorial aggressions that the PLA is making across the LAC. Second, I would say, is the large trade deficit that's developing with China. We recently crossed $100 billion. And third, I would say, is the undermining of Indian efforts at multilateralism or protecting itself that China does on multilateral forums, such as the UNSC terrorist list, etc. In terms of gains, I would say things such as we are collaborating in the case of climate change, two countries that are really holding out against the West in terms of letting the East and common and differentiated responsibilities. Second, sir, I would say is that both countries are invested in a multipolar world. As of now, they're interested in a multipolar world detached from one or only two superpowers. So this is the two places where I can see them cooperate in the future. Thank you.
You have been a student of political science, so must have studied constitution in detail. Now suppose Government of India forms a committee with the objective of rewriting the constitution of India to be more suitable for current times and futures. And you get a once in a lifetime opportunity to sit in this committee. What 5 things you would like to see in the new constitution, major changes?
Can I take a minute to think, sir? So the first I can think of, the changes that I would want clarity on and even more deliberation on is on the structure of the judiciary as of right now.
Structure of judiciary.
Structure of judiciary, sir. That is nomination and election of judges, selection of judges. I think that leads to a lot of...
Right.
Second, sir, I would say is that I think there should be clarity on terms of the role of personal laws. Moving towards a UCC
Fine.
is something that I would prioritize. Third, clarity on laws related to women. As we're a changing society, I hope that at a time, if this is the time to revise the constitution, a lot of laws related to, say, child marriage,
Okay, got it.
etc., related to women, sir. Fourth, I would work on federalism and the division of subjects within
Center-state relations.
Center-state relations. And finally, sir, I think protection of indigenous identities, that is the tribal culture and integration without diminishing.
Okay, if I suggest the sixth thing, what is your view on that? Reservation for women.
Sir, in the parliament?
In parliament as well as in the services.
Sir, as of right now, I don't think I hold a very favorable view of the reservation for women. So that is primarily because of the fact that I feel like women right now are getting an opportunity to develop on an educational scale, and what reservation does then is that we can see it from examples
what you say is good in theory, but if we can have reservation for so many classes, so much so that it has gone to 60% and above in states, why not for women? In fact, there are some countries in the world who have a reservation only for women or no other class. What's wrong with that?
So I think I would use what you just said, that there are certain countries that have reservation for women. One of our neighbors, Pakistan, has reservation for women in the parliament. I don't think it brings the sort of benefit that we expect out of, because it's a lot of proxies that are put in place in terms of women.
One last question. Lately, we have been seeing involvement of students too much in politics, but particularly some universities in the country. So one suggestion is that the active politics should not be permitted in colleges and universities. What I mean by active politics is participation of mainstream political parties in election of leaders. That's what I mean. So that should not be permitted, because not only that it interferes with their education, it also creates other problems, social problems. What do you think?
So I do agree with this, Stan. I think that student politics in the campus should exist.
That's a different thing.
But interference of political parties does create...
Right now, because you have studied in Delhi, you know that in Delhi university elections, mainstream parties are always there. So that should be restricted.
Yes, sir.
Good, thanks.
Today in newspaper, I read a news that North Korea has objected that United States is going to supply arms and other things, aircrafts and tanks, etc. to Ukraine. They have a very strong objection. Would you analyze this thing for me? What will be your advice to Government of India?
Sir, I think from what I understand, North Korea's objection to the supplying of weapons primarily is rooted
to Ukraine.
Is primarily rooted in the increased arms race that it will further project all over the world. An increased supply of arms to Ukraine has a direct impact on the way that the war develops in Ukraine. It will for sure increase the intensity of the war in the near future, and in the long run it will also give other partners of US the hope that they will also be getting these kind of arms, such as Japan, South Korea. That could be the
Given
apprehension
the
of
conflict between North Korea and USA, Don't you see a second front is opening up with China and Taiwan?
Yes, sir. I think that the current war in Ukraine definitely has a spillover to the conflict that US has with China in Taiwan, and even conflicts all over the Indo-Pacific, because necessarily this is a continuation. This will lead to a overall militarization of the whole
So after
Eurasian
this
region.
analysis, what will be your advice to Government of India? 1, 2, 3.
So can I ask for a clarification?
Yeah.
So advice regarding exactly what?
Regarding this development, how you see it, what you will advise to the External Affairs Minister, how you will analyze it for him.
So I think the first thing that I would say is that we can expect the war to intensify, not only in Ukraine, but other theaters to open up in the near future. I think that is something that should be expected. If certain other theaters are going to open up in the near future, one of the biggest threats that India itself as a country has is that we have a 3,500 kilometer long border with China. And we can expect certain fallouts to even occur on that border.
Do India have a relationship with North Korea? Can that channel be used, or some back channel can be used?
So,
Won't I go and see in which forum North Korea has said this thing? Who is the person who has spoken these words?
so with the details of the news, I'm not aware. I haven't read this news.
No, that's what I wanted your analysis. Again, say Pakistan said that, Shahbaz Sharif said that he wants to have a discussion with India over Kashmir. Next day it was denied. How you analyze this?
So I think Pakistan at this moment, if we talk about this particular news, is trying to breadcrumb India in terms of sending a little bit of mixed signals here and there.
Was that a signal? Shahbaz Sharif's statement, was that a signal?
So I would just see it as a way, it is a signal.
It was stated,
But they don't want to take the first large step.
what is the normal communication channel between two countries?
So bilateral, it was said on a third country platform.
No, it was Shahbaz Sharif's statement was to a newspaper.
Yes, sir.
It was one of those things.
Yes,
it is
sir.
not an official communication.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
But it was, had it been a more serious effort, it should have come from diplomat to diplomat,
Yes, sir.
not in the news channel.
Yes, sir.
You are from Lady Sri Ram College.
So I've done my diploma from there. yes.
Okay, who is Lady?
Sir, Lady Shri Ram was the wife of Sir Shri Ram. Sir Shri Ram and both Lady Shri Ram took a great interest in education of women in the country. Sir Shri Ram was the owner of the Delhi cloth mill.
In recent times, the government of India allow foreign university to open campus in India. What's your view?
So I think it is a step that can be integrated in the educational structure of the country. I think it would bring diversity in education. It would also curb a lot of students who necessarily want to go outside and expose themselves to the different kind of courses that exist outside, to stay in India, conserve forex, and contribute directly into the Indian economy. However, sir, I think one big caveat to all of this has to be that equity in public education cannot be compromised while all of this entry is being facilitated. Sir.
What's your view about UPI? Recently, I think some 10 countries are. Who are the 10 countries?
So I don't know all of the 10, but a few of them are UAE, Nepal, Singapore. These are the ones.
Okay, my last question. You are from Meerut. What is the role of Meerut in Indian history?
So Meerut has a long historical role in Indian history. Nearby Meerut, there is Hastinapur, which was one of the grounds in the Mahabharata. Of recent history, the 1857 revolt started from the Meerut cantonment, and Mangal Pandey bit off the first part of the rifle over there.
Shreya, your first choice is Indian Foreign Service. There is a video which I was listening to. One of the analysts, he says, America is interested in continuation of Ukraine-Russia war because it wants to finish the Russian economy. Similarly, America is interested in China-Taiwan war also to finish China's economy and then hold the unipolar status in the world. What is your take on that?
So I do think that there might be some element of truth in these statements. Of course, no country wants a long-term war because it affects the economy of its own country and affects relationships all over the world. However, in this case, the two countries that are going to be at the possible end of the wars are two main competitors. So this provides a necessary strategic breathing space for US at a very critical time. Of course, all of it depends on how the next few months play out and actually whether US is able to come out on top on both of these issues or not.
Okay, my last question. You are in the foreign ministry and we have a lady finance minister. Some Gulf country wants to give us oil at 25% or 30% discount, but he wants that the lady finance minister should come in burqa and hijab to sign that agreement to that country. What will be your suggestion to the foreign minister?
So my suggestion would be, as a country that's interacting on a bilateral forum, it is important to take in cognizance the other people's cultures and feelings. However, that cannot come at the cost of our own independent expression. So if it is something that the foreign minister herself has a problem with, I would not insist on it, sir, because individual expression is also something that should not be compromised, at least for a country as at a developing stage like India, sir.
Okay, Shreya, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Shreya, how many marks did you get when you got selected for this Indian Defence Account Service?
Sir, 193.
190.
And the earlier one?
So 190.
Same
marks.
So you know your position. I think you're well prepared for the interview. There is nothing much to really tell you about things, except that keep yourself aware of the current events and especially in the international relations. So keep yourself update on that, and otherwise we found you to be absolutely prepared for interview.
So I felt the current affairs questions were very difficult, and the questions itself weren't difficult, but electoral reforms and stuff,
Electoral
totally
reforms,
blanked
your
out.
answer was not satisfactory. You basically should look. See, RTI in political parties will not be possible because it includes the information about so many political workers. So that becomes a kind of a public, it coming in the public domain is just not possible.
Yes, sir.
So you should be basically, otherwise, yes, electoral reforms, money plays the biggest role nowadays, even more than the muscles power.
Okay,
Every vote is getting purchased, especially in South India. I don't know about North India, but money is playing a big role. How to control the money power is something which has to be addressed by the Election Commission.
Okay, sir.
So electoral reforms, yes, not very good, but otherwise your answer on RBM as well as on NRA, etc., most of the answers what we have observed is quite good. So you seems to be well prepared. If you have anything to ask, please let us know. Otherwise, from our side, we should be seeing your name somewhere in the list to get you foreign service.
Thank you, sir. I wanted to just ask if there are anything that I can work on, maybe mannerisms or...
Current affairs, deaf-related issues.
Okay, sir. Current affairs.
And deaf-related issues.
Which countries did you stay?
So I have stayed in only stayed in Bahrain.
Bahrain.
Yes, sir.
Little bit.
So read India, Bahrain.
Little bit on banking. We didn't touch banking today.
Yes, sir.
Particularly privatization of banking. In this investment, the question could be extended to the banking sector. To what extent and whether completely or not.
Okay, sir. Banking I'll work on.
Our trade relation with the China.
Okay, sir.
That you have listed.
Yes, sir. I'll work on that. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so
you.
much.
Best.
Thank you.
All the best.